Well, it's absolutely fantastic to see you all again. It's great to get back together. The gang's back together again. And thank you all of you for agreeing to do this today. I know it's a bit nerve-wracking, but it means such a lot to us at Nurture UK. And I just, before we start, just wanted to sort of say thank you, because we did this together, didn't we? This was a pilot that you helped us with, and it was an adventure that none of us knew where it was going to lead to. But amazingly, it's led to this fantastic success. And I'm just so pleased and privileged to have been the person that could go on this journey with you. So it's a big thank you from us at Nurture UK for everything that's happened. And I'm looking forward to sort of picking your brains a bit today and hearing about the journey and how it looked from your perspective. So less from me, let's hear your voice. It's much more important than mine in this. So if you wouldn't mind, can we just start by, if you wouldn't mind, just introducing yourselves and your role within Virtual School Kent. We'll start with you, Amanda.
Yeah, morning, Claire. My name's Amanda Ormond. I'm the Senior Support Officer for children that are in care to Kent but living outside the county. And I've been with the virtual school now for 11 years this year. So I initially started working in the North Kent area, but now I manage the out-of-county team. So we've got children all around the country currently.
Brilliant, thank you. Jamie?
Hi there, my name is Tony Doran. I am the head teacher of Virtual School Kent. I've been with Virtual School Kent before it was Virtual School Kent, when it was the Integrated Looked After Children Support Service, trips off the tongue. And it's been my privilege to be the head teacher of this virtual school and to see where it's developed from to where it is today.
Thank you.
Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah Howell. I'm the Deputy Head for the Virtual School Kent, and my remit is I cover the North and West Kent side of the county, as well as supporting out of county team as well. I've been with Virtual School Kent for 4 years, and I've only recently taken up this role. Previously was the assistant head in the North Kent area.
Okay, thank you. So we're here today to talk about this amazing thing that's happened, which is that you guys have become the very first virtual school to achieve the Nurturing Schools Award. So, you know, it's just an amazing thing, really. And, you know, new for all of us, new for us here at Nurture UK, and certainly new for, you know, virtual schools in the UK. So you're leading the way, really. So the purpose of today is just to hopefully inspire other virtual schools to get involved and to spread the word, because as we all know, because we've seen for ourselves, the impact's really great, isn't it? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn my camera off because I want to focus on you guys. So just bear with me while I do that. But you'll still hear my voice. So hopefully you can still hear me. I'm just going to remove my... There you go. So now it's just you three. So I've got a few questions, and you know, it's just pretend that the camera isn't even on. We'll just have a little chat between the three of us, as we have done many times before. Tony, can I start with you and just ask you, could you please explain for anyone who doesn't know what a virtual school is?
The virtual school acts as a local authority champion to promote the progress and educational achievement of children and young people who are or have ever been in care, so that they can achieve educational outcomes comparable to their peers. Ensuring they receive high quality education is the foundation for improving their lives. The school doesn't exist in real terms like a building as such, but and the young people do not attend this virtual school. They remain the responsibility of their the school that they're enrolled in. VSK is simply an organisation which has been created to oversee the data, how they're doing, how the school is doing in supporting our young people to maximise their education and life care chances. Also, the role has extended more recently. We're also responsible for previously looked after children and most recently children with a social worker. We have been successful as a system, as a virtual school, nationally and within Kent, and therefore those responsibilities have grown.
Thank you. Okay, so Amanda, I'm going to start with you because it kind of did start with you, didn't it? And Joe Kelly, who was the previous deputy head. We met back in 2016, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
In Bethnal Green, where you were attending my theory and practice of nurture group training. Beautiful sunny day, and so at lunchtime we sat in the garden there, didn't we, and had a chat. Can you take us back to that day and what you said to me?
Yeah, of course. And as Tony's just explained, we're not a school per se. We're like the umbrella over the children in care within their schools, you know, around Kent and outside of Kent as well. So for me, I suppose initially there was that challenge around thinking on how I could use the training that I'd undertaken and actually make it valuable for us at the virtual school. Because as I say, we're not like a school building, we wouldn't be able to set up our own nurture groups. But coming from a behaviour background, having worked in a pupil referral unit for a number of years, I could see that, you know, these kids, the behaviour they were presenting, it's all about inclusion. And, you know, our most vulnerable young people, especially those that are in care or previously looked after, you know, often we see behaviour issues for them. And, you know, fixed term exclusions, permanent exclusions from schools was a hot topic. And we were looking at how we could improve things, especially for our young people. So it kind of started me thinking, and we sat down, didn't we, Claire, at lunchtime and had a chat. And it was, as I've always referred to, it's either my Martin Luther King moment or my ABBA moment. I think we went with the ABBA moment about I have a dream. And it was about how we could drive down the exclusion figures in Kent, especially for the children that we work with at the virtual school. So we started to be a bit creative with our thinking, and we looked at a possible idea of taking your training into our schools in Kent and really spreading the word about what Nurture UK were about. Having done the 3 days and really building a rapport with you and you really understanding what we were about, I took it back to Joe Kelly, who was the deputy head at virtual school at the time, and just said, look, this is an opportunity we can't leave. We need to do something about this. How can we make it work? So the initial idea was around using our pupil premium funding for a group of schools as a pilot scheme in the North Kent area, which I worked in initially, just to see, you know, what the uptake was, if we could kind of spread the word about nurture and how it could work for our children. So that's what we did. We took 6 schools initially in the North Kent area, 2 secondary and 4 primary, offered the training to those schools with an agreement that within the year of them doing their training, they'd have some sort of nurture group set up in their school. We looked at some impact measures, you know, how it had affected their schools. We looked at how the staff sort of offered opinions about the training, what they thought they could do to expand on it, etc., etc. Well, that was immensely successful. And the feedback we were getting from those schools that were involved in that training was just phenomenal. And we thought we really hit on something here. So we do need to sort of take this even further still. So the next time we had a discussion about it, we thought we needed to include more of our own staff at the virtual school in some training to ensure that our schools out there were getting that direct support from us as well. And there was that mutual understanding of what we were trying to achieve out in the county. From those first 6 schools, we've had at least 2 of those schools achieve the Nurture UK quality mark, which is fantastic. So they're really setting a gold standard when it comes to nurture. I think the one school is definitely going for the National Nurturing Schools programme as well. And I know there's other schools within Kent that have done that off their own back too. But back in 2018, we decided that we'd roll this pilot scheme out further across the county. And we did. And we looked right across the county. And we also included some of our colleagues from the specialist teaching service. They joined us in some training. So more than 45 schools were included in the next rollout of training. So that meant that we had 2 representatives from each school come along to some more training delivered by yourself, Claire. And with the additional members of staff from the specialist teaching service, that meant that over 100 staff were further trained. Again, feedback was phenomenal. We looked at supporting our schools through our staff at VSK, you know, helping them set up their groups. Some of our staff went out and visited and gave advice and offered their expertise as well, getting these nurture groups set up. So we really did see that, you know, not only was this a valuable piece of training, but there was a definite need right across the county for it. The feedback, we had 98% of staff that went on the training, this is right across the county, said that the training highly met their expectations. And the same percentage of people said it would highly influence their future practice. So we certainly were onto something quite big here. Having got to know Nurture UK and all the things that you offered, we decided that, you know, the Boxall Profile was definitely something that was valuable to us as a service, because, you know, with children in care, we often come up against difficulties and situations that are linked to attachment. We offer our own attachment training at the virtual school as well, right across the county. And this just was tying everything up nicely and linking really well right across the board. And so we thought there was more leg room here. There was, you know, other things that we could do. And this was something that we soon realised that the staff at the virtual school live and breathe nurture every day and weren't necessarily realising it until you stick a label on it and say, look, this is what you're doing. They didn't actually realise what they were doing. So we kind of had further discussions. My role changed slightly. From working in the North Kent team, I then went on to lead the out of county team, which put me in a senior role, which meant I was part of the extended leadership team at virtual school. So these conversations kind of evolved over the last couple of years about, you know, nurture really is ingrained within our service. So how can we celebrate that further? And it kind of brought us onto the idea that maybe we could look at how we could perhaps recreate alongside Nurture UK the idea of the National Nurture in Schools programme, because as a service, as I say, this is what we offer, it's running through our veins, and this is kind of where we got to with Jo Kelly. We brought Sarah in on this part as well, because Sarah was coming in to take over as Jo left us, and we kind of presented to the senior leadership team that there's more that could be done with this and what do we need to do. So we kind of had a meeting from there, and stop me, Claire, if I'm going ahead of myself here, because we had senior people down from Nurture UK come and meet us down in Maidstone at Sessions House, and we all sat around and talked about an idea of maybe creating the National Nurture in Schools programme for a virtual school. And I think I'll probably best stop there, because I'll probably take over the next part as well.
No, beautifully put though. Yeah, and it was quite a journey, wasn't it? And
yeah.
I mean, I'm really grateful because I spent most of 2018 in Kent, and just as you know, all of you know, I just fell in love with Kent as a county. It's a beautiful part of the world, and it's not just the geography of it, really. It's the people. You know, everybody, every person I trained during that time, including yourselves, just very passionate and you know, very child focused, and you know, everybody singing from the same page, really. And it was just absolutely one of the best years I had, really, in my training career. So thank you for that, Amanda. I'm glad you had that dream.
Thank you.
So Tony and Sarah, what did you think when they came to you with this idea? You know, because it's quite an undertaking, wasn't it?
From a senior leadership team perspective, it was a very simple discussion. You know, the work was recognised that was already undertaken. Nurture principles had perfect synergy with the ethos of the school anyway, as Amanda's kind of painted the picture. So it was a very easy decision about us taking this whole school and taking it to the next level, and also taking it upwards to within the hierarchy of Kent County Council. I don't know if you want to add in terms of how the staff embraced it, Sarah.
Yeah, I think so. I think that, you know, from my point of view, it was coming into a team that had, you know, Amanda had got going with the sort of nurture training with different schools. We continued that, and so by getting to know the schools more and what they were going through for the 3-day training, that really helped me, and I could then see that the staff in our teams were already embracing that. They were already going forwards. And then when we looked at the National Nurturing Schools programme, we were already doing a lot of those things that were already listed there as well. The staff understood that we were already doing those things, so it seemed a natural progression for us, I think.
Yeah. And the initial training that we did together, so we had those 2 days, didn't we? Do you remember? It was February, just before the first lockdown. I mean, none of us knew what was about to hit us at that point, but we had those lovely 2 days together. And I think the framework of our training, there was all the different standards to the award. As I was working with you and we did all our little sort of reflection activities, as each day went by, it became clearer and clearer to me just how much of our standards were already established or even enhanced, actually, from the get-go. So it was really clear that this was more a framework to celebrate what you were doing. However, there were some things that you wanted to work on. Can you remember some of those areas? I remember Boxall Profile was particularly an area you needed to do a little bit of work on. How did that go for you?
I think from my point of view, it was when we met in, had that first meeting in February. What we need to also say is that we were a really new extended leadership team at that point as well. So we'd recently been through a restructure and had started the September as a new extended leadership team, people in different roles. And so it was a time we'd only met together once as an extended leadership team before we started this in February. So it was a really good point to kind of get us all together, realise that it didn't matter what roles people were now in, we all had the same principles behind what we were doing as well. And from that point of view, I think it solidified that team and it gave us those opportunities to work together on something productive together that we hadn't yet had.
I didn't realise that, you didn't come across that way at all. So if that helps, you came across as a really, a team that had very much gelled together. And I understand that it's not that often that you get all of the teams from all of your different regions within Kent together. So I think that had its benefits as well, didn't it, Sarah?
Absolutely, and we're such a big county that it is really hard to get all of us together, and even from the extended leadership team perspective, it's really hard to get everyone together because we are so widespread across the county. And it was just those kind of, as I say, those initial conversations of having with people that you wouldn't necessarily have worked with previously, and realizing that we all had the same things in common. Really, it was great.
So after those couple of days, you left with a plan, and this is one of the things, I think I put this in the final report, didn't I, about how a reflective practice is just like breathing to you guys. It's just something you just automatically do. And this was the beginning of that, reflection on, right, so this is what we need to do next. And the structure of the course is such that we met again at 4 months, didn't we? And then we met again at 8 months, and then we had our final 12-month catch-up. Of course, they were all done online then because COVID had its wicked way with us all. But I remember, if you wouldn't mind talking to me about the Boxall Profile, because I know as from working with you that it's impacted greatly for a lot of your team. What was that like? Because it wasn't something you were using widely at the very beginning, was it?
No, and I don't think, it's like anything, Claire, you take on something new or what appears to be new, and sometimes there's a bit of resistance to that because it's something else people feel that they need to do. However, I think what was lovely to hear recently was that a member of staff who was fairly new to the service very openly and honestly spoke to us about his journey with the Boxall Profile. And he made it very clear that yes, in the beginning he thought, crikey, how's this going to work? It's something else we need to do. But when the realization was there that this could be done in collaboration with our schools that know our young people really well, perhaps with information alongside what social workers share with us as well, he really experienced the Boxall at its best. And this was for a young unaccompanied asylum-seeking young person, you know, who's had a traumatic journey to get to our country anyhow. So there's bound to be additional issues for them around attachment, you know, the fact that they often travel alone. And, you know, Jeff was a little bit reticent on how this was going to possibly work for this young person, but he stuck with it. He went through the process, and it was almost, he had that light bulb moment when the results came out on the developmental strands and the diagnostics. Actually, this was a really good representation of what this young person's experiences were, and it gave him a starting point on how to engage him in other services and get the support that he needs. And that young man is actually flourishing now. So I think for me, that was a one standout story about the Boxall Profile. And we've certainly put together a team of, we've named them our Nurture ambassadors, of people that are really sort of singing the praises of the Boxall Profile and promoting it within their own teams, supporting staff that are maybe a bit unsure of it, or it's new to them, and they're maybe not as confident with it. And I think the more that we're using it, we're really seeing the benefits from behind, you know, what the diagnostics, etc., tell us for our young people. And, you know, quite often it's like, yeah, I know this exactly about this young person. And this is just demonstrating everything that we've been saying. And, you know, having it formalised on a document, if you like, helps to support our schools with target setting around PEPs. It helps social workers have a deeper understanding, links to education alongside that. And it's also helped some of our foster carers really understand the young people they're looking after as well.
Yeah, and during the assessment interviews, designated teachers all spoke really highly of that, how the Boxall Profile was supporting them to sort of understand the strategies and, you know, the targets that they could set and how they could support them. But they also spoke really highly of the support that you were giving them, which stemmed from this work, you know. So they all had this quite clear understanding of the 6 principles in the Boxall Profile, and that came from the support you were giving, you know. So I could see that impact on the assessment day really clearly. And they were all, you know, they were all very positive about you, weren't they? Some lovely comments that came from them. So Tony, would you talk to us about the 6 principles? Because I think that was for me, that was one of the most outstanding features of your award, what you did with 6 principles.
Yeah, I operate a distributed leadership kind of approach. So Joe Kelly from my leadership team and later Sarah have responsibility for really delivering on this. But I'm very fortunate in Virtual School Kent to have a part of my service which is dedicated to capturing the voice of the young people that we work with, called the Participation and Engagement Team. And they did lots of pieces of work with young people, going through the 6 principles of nurture that Nurture UK produce, and try and readdress the language gap between what our young people would buy into and what is clearly intended by the 6 principles of nurture. And that piece of work is lovely, because it isn't just around what those 6 principles mean to our young people, but it's easily understood by adults, professionals, and they also developed a visualization of those 6 principles. Our young people really started to change the language of the 6 principles so it had currency for them. But we found that equally was powerful for ourselves and other professionals that we work with. So they changed that children's learning is understood developmentally into no matter what age, everyone is at a different stage. They changed the classroom offers a safe base to Virtual School Kent, or Kent County Council can be your safe space. They changed the importance of nurture for the development of well-being to nurture helps you feel happy and healthy. Language is a vital means of communication. They changed into VSK can help you find your voice. They changed all behaviour is communication, which is one of the absolute fundamental tenets that we believe in, into how you behave tells us how you feel. And finally, the importance of transition in children's lives. They changed to whatever changes you face, we are here to guide you. So they not only changed the language of the 6 principles, but it was their language. It was something that they bought into. And then they helped us develop our logo from what was the Kent bookend, which was something that was developed by one of our young people back in 2010-11, from a bookend with virtual school Kent being in 3 different bookends, which stood for education, social care, foster care, with the Invicta horse as the bookend, holding the books upright, holding it all together, the corporate parent holding it together. They changed that whole ethos into a watering can. And out of the watering can were 6 drops, and each drop was a different colour, and each colour connected to one of the 6 principles. And then they put the word nurture underneath it, with flowers emerging from the word nurture, showing that if you get these 6 principles together, it helps support young people to develop and flourish. So that was a wonderful piece of work, led by my P&E team, which I think really encapsulates the ethos that VSK as a service are trying to put out there for our young people, but also for our partners. And what's been really important over the last 2 years is for each other within my service and the support we give to each and every member of staff in my service.
Yeah, and it wasn't just sort of a tick box exercise by any means, was it? You know, it wasn't like, well, we'll do this activity and there it is done. It went on from there, didn't it? It developed from there further.
Can I also add as well, when we first looked at the principles, the 6 principles, we looked at Nurture UK 6 principles first, and then it was actually an activity for all of our staff as well. So it's, 90 people that we got into working party groups and who all took principles each, and they had the chance to explore them further and what that might mean to them in their work, and tweak them to our speak. And then the young people then develop that into a much more coherent kind of way of working for them as well. So that was great that there's been so many people involved in the development of those principles too.
Yeah.
And I've more recently taken this to extended DMT, Directors Management Team, so which is all the corporate directors and assistant directors in Kent County Council. And I've presented this, and actually this journey around the development of the Kent VSK 6 principles. And to a man, to a woman, they all absolutely agreed that this was fantastic and that it would apply to any service in Kent.
Yeah, so it's certainly evolved, and I think this is something, if we're talking to people who are thinking about, taking part in this programme, it's important to say that this is a marathon, not a race. This didn't happen overnight, did it? It evolved, and it was a sort of gradual thing. And we do give you that time, don't we, to do that? There was a little hiatus where we were all locked down and couldn't do anything for a while. But even during lockdown, the things that you did to support both yourselves working remotely and your young people was amazing. Do you want to just talk about some of the things that you put in place to ensure well-being during the lockdown?
I'd like to start before I hand over to my colleagues to go into more detail about what we did. I'm thinking of a beard growing competition apart from anything else. Although the lockdown did cause a hiatus in terms of when we probably wanted to be in a position to achieve this award, and although it was an incredibly difficult period of time, I think in some ways did us a favour, because we had to apply these principles equally to our own staff and colleagues and friends as we would have always wanted to do to our young people, and in turn other wider professionals and network. We were forced, well, we weren't forced, we wanted to live and breathe these principles to support our members of staff through this difficult time, because we were all struggling at some point or another. But in terms of the crazy ways that my area teams supported each other, I'll hand over to Sarah and Amanda to give you some examples.
Yeah, so as Tony just said, it really was a time that, it was a national time of nurture and looking after each other and saving the vulnerable people in our societies as well. So it was a good chance to make sure that we really were living and breathing the nurture principles within our own service, in all sense of the service as well. So within teams, there was a team that did beard growing competition. There was only one male in that team.
And he didn't win, did he?
And he didn't win, no. There was, there were lots of other things going on. We had walking, people, when you weren't allowed to meet one person, there was kind of rotas of people meeting each other one by one. When that wasn't possible, we also had snow that meant people couldn't meet up as well. So there were things like people met up on Zoom for walks, and I believe that Amanda and I, when we could meet up, met you on a Zoom walk as well at one point with it as well. So we had bake off, where we had a cake in the shape of a celebrity. We had that competition going on as well. There was just lots of things. There were we also invested in mindfulness sessions for staff as well. So there was that opportunity at the end of a day for a period of time where you could engage in that. And KCC also engaged in those activities as well, that well-being that you could kind of log on to as well. It was really it was there, it was promoted, it wasn't seen as a negative that people were engaging in it, that people needed it at that time as well. So it was definitely something people were talking about and willing to share with each other too.
Yeah, and I definitely think, I certainly reflected on the 6 principles during lockdown. I mean, for my team, we've worked remotely for a while now. And I think lockdown opened so many doors for our young people out of the county, because we were all forced into this remote world. And it kind of forced people into rethinking on how people connected. And it certainly, as I say, opened many doors for the young people that are placed outside of Kent. I know our team, we had just half-hour coffee mornings just dropped in throughout the week, where we didn't necessarily talk about work, because some people were completely isolated. And we just needed some downtime just to, be daft, be silly, wear stupid hats, tiaras, magic wands, all sorts came out during those meetings. Many a screenshot was taken of those meetings so that we could reflect on things later on through the year as well. So, I think we really all stepped up a gear when it came to nurture. And we certainly appreciated, that developmental stage we were all at with managing the transition into a lockdown, and then having to manage it out a little bit, then a little bit more, then back into a lockdown. And we certainly appreciated that, for everybody, it was going to be different, including our young people. And I think we anticipated some of the difficulties that our young people would actually face going back to normality, or what was the new normality. So it made us all more reflective, I believe. And I think we've all supported each other magnificently throughout it, and it's just been great. And I think we've held on to some of those things that we've learned through that as well. And the well-being is certainly a hot topic in my team meetings, and I know for other area teams as well, we always look at well-being as part of the agenda.
And as a leader of the service, I'm sure people on the outside listening to this may think, they were having jollies. It wasn't jolly. I absolutely supported this in their break times, their lunch times, and when they were going through particular hard times. We were encouraging our staff to have a bit of humour, because that was the biggest thing that was lost during the lockdown, I think. Those informal opportunities to go make yourself a coffee from the canteen areas and have a giggle informally with your colleagues, that had gone. So my teams worked hard to try to recreate those in a digital environment. I know different people in the North Kent team were responsible for a different game during the lunch break. There was a play your cards right, you know, there was somebody doing, you know, the dollies dealers or whatever they were called, and turning over the cards, and you know, from a very miserable head of the school, you could think, oh, you know, no, but no, actually, yes, we need more of this. We need to bolster morale in what was a very difficult period for everyone, and I'm confident that it worked, because overall staff morale has remained relatively high. We are a large service with very high retention of staff, and I think that's a reflection of the amazing work my senior leaders and my managers do to look after their teams, and the next level they are prepared to go to keep the team buoyant, connected, and most importantly, supportive of one another.
Yeah, and there's no coincidence that wellbeing is one of our standards within the Nurturing Schools programme. And as educators, we all tend to be very child focused, and it's very common for lots of people who work in education to be so child focused you don't actually think about yourself, whereas actually you can't support the pupils properly unless you're feeling okay yourself. So, and the humour, it played a massive part in our training sessions, didn't it? And we had the you know, hide the ABBA songs in our first day, which I particularly enjoyed. So various of us, when we were talking, would just drop a line for an ABBA song in, and the staff had to find out who, you know, write a list of what they were. We had a little treasure hunt on one of them, I seem to remember, which, you know, there was all sorts of different fun things that we wove in. And here at Nurture UK, we really respond to that, and we know the importance of joy and laughter because it gives us connection, you know. So, and that applies to your staff and your pupils alike, doesn't it? So what advice would you give to other virtual schools who might be looking to embed a whole school approach to nurture?
Very simple for me, do it. It's often said to be an oxymoron about an enjoyable inspection, but if the 2 days where you came down and reviewed Virtual School Kent in terms of the NNSP, it was an enjoyable process. You know, it was about that triangulation of an external body reaffirming to me, certainly, what I thought I knew from the data and what I knew about my team. And then hearing that from you, from a whole host of partners that you interviewed during the 2 days, was absolutely fantastic. Yeah. I've said to you before, Claire, we are evangelical about nurture, but that's that we were before we became accredited, because we honestly believe that any inclusive institution cannot fail to appreciate the 6 principles and their importance. But what Nurture gave us was a framework to build and develop that ethos upon. And the other thing I would say in terms of supporting other people doing this is that we didn't do this on our own. We did it in partnership with you, with Nurture UK, and it has been nothing but a positive partnership from start to finish. Probably, and Amanda's probably best place to say this, but from 2016 straight through to today, certainly my involvement with you from about 2019 onwards, this has been a very effective collaborative partnership.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, Tony, that, you know, the whole process of achieving the award, it's not been a chore. It's been a celebration every step of the way, and I think it's really important for teams, you know, in virtual schools to be able to celebrate. And I think sometimes we're so wrapped up being child focused, as you said, Claire, that we forget what we really stand for and what we really do for our young people. And I think every training session that we've had with you, every time extended leadership has got together to discuss, you know, where we were going with Nurture, it's not been a chore, it's been a celebration of what we're doing each step of the way, and that's what's made it so enjoyable to do. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I'd also like to add, when we first started looking at what we needed to do, it did look overwhelming to begin with, about the amount of standards there were and what we needed to kind of look at. And, sort of when we first got together with Joe Kelly and looked at all these things, and we had bits of paper all over the floor in a front room looking at it and trying to work out where we were going. It did seem overwhelming, but when you broke it down into small manageable pieces, you could really see that as virtual schools, and I believe all virtual schools will see this as well, that it's what you do day in, day out. And so it's already there. And so it was just a case of, evidence in it, really. There was no extra work to be done.
Yeah. Well, that's lovely to hear, and the feeling is very mutual, as you guys all know. We are very fond of you at Virtual School Kent, but and this is what it's all about for us. It's about building those positive relationships and supporting you. We don't lecture. We don't tell you what to do. We don't tell you how to do it. We give you a framework that you can then evolve and make it bespoke to your own setting. And that would apply to whatever virtual school, whatever size, wouldn't it? I know that you guys are the biggest virtual school in the UK, aren't you? But whether you were, the largest or even the smallest, it would still work. And that's the sort of the value of the Nurturing Schools programme, isn't it? Okay, well, thank you very much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. For now, I'm going to just say heartfelt thanks from all of us at Nurture UK. It's been an absolute pleasure and privilege working with you, and I just can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you, Claire.
Thanks, Claire.